Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvi Taneja. Coming up in the next hour. India's Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar highlights historic firsts of 2024 polls, says India created a world record of 642 million voter turnout with the highest women participation seen. India's exit polls drive the stock markets to hit record highs. Sensex Nifty surge over 3% on the eve of poll counting. Israel's top priority is destroying Hamas, reiterates Prime Minister Netanyahu, adds that it would be pursued along with the hostage recovery as part of the Gaza plan. And Claudia Sheinbaum wins a landslide victory to become Mexico's first female president in the country's 200-year history. So it's the eve of poll counting in India as the people's mandate is sealed inside the ballot boxes. Up first, we bring you the latest on India elections. So India set a world record with 642 million registered voters in this polling season. This was highlighted by the Election Commission of India on Monday. A record-breaking 312 million women voters also participated in the electoral process in the 7-phase Lok Sabha elections this year. Several lessons were also learnt. The ECI said the next general elections would be concluded by the end of April to avoid the impact of the severe heat wave. A report.
More than wins or losses, when the poll itself makes world records, it is definitely a victory for democracy. And India did just that. India created a world record with 642 million voters participating in this year's general elections. Briefing media in New Delhi, Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar said that the number of Indian voters this year is 1.5 times the voters of all G7 countries. Not only this, over 312 million women voters exercised their franchise this year, which is also the highest ever in the world.
We have created a world record of 642 million proud Indian voters. This is 1.5 times of the voters of all G7 countries. There are 312 million proud women voters. This is also the highest ever in the world.
Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar praised the people of Jammu and Kashmir for their highest voter turnout in the last 4 decades.
58.58% overall turnout and in Valley 51.5. हमने जो आंखों में चमक है, जो भविष्य को लेके चमक है, जो डेमोक्रेसी में पार्टिसिपेशन को लेके चमक थी, जो क्राउड थी, जो भीड़ थी, उसमें हमने उसको देखा है.
Home voting facility, a first in India's general elections for 85-year-old and above and for differently abled voters, was also a praiseworthy initiative by the Commission.
होम वोटिंग में जिन लोगों ने हमारे साथ वोट दिया, ये हमारे लोकतंत्र के गणनायक हैं. आजादी से पहले का भारत इन्होंने देखा है और पिछले 70 सालों में इन्होंने देश की एक-एक चीज में तरक्की में और कार्य में भाग लिया है. इनको भी हम दिल से नमन करते हैं कि इतने दिल से इन्होंने हमारे इलेक्शंस में भाग लिया.
As India saw intense heat wave in April and May, Commissioner Kumar said that ECI will ensure that next general election concludes by the end of April. He also informed that the relentless heat wave claimed the lives of 33 on-duty poll workers. The 2024 Lok Sabha elections, the second longest since 1951 and 52, spanned 6 weeks and 7 phases. The extensive electoral process started on April 19, followed by phases on April 26, May 7, May 20th, May 25 and June 1st. All eyes are now on the counting day as the world's largest electorate eagerly awaits the results. Tanvi Taneja reporting for DD India.
And now let's connect with our correspondent to understand the preparations for tomorrow's counting. Deepika Mehto is joining us from India's northern part of Uttar Pradesh's Varanasi. Deepika, as the biggest festival of democracy comes to a close tomorrow, so is everything set for the poll counting tomorrow?
Indeed, Tanvi, when we talk about the counting preparation, the election, this is the penultimate day of the 7-phase spread Lok Sabha election for the largest democracy of the world. And now when we talk about the counting preparations here, especially in Varanasi, which is the constituency of Prime Minister Narendra Modi, it is a very important constituency from the point of view of Lok Sabha election. And not only this, from the point of view of the current party, which is Bharatiya Janata Party, which is also, as per exit polls, expected to make comeback in its third term also. And now we are expecting, as the exit poll says, people's mandate say that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is going to make a hat-trick over here. When we talk about the counting preparation, Election Commission of India has beefed up its security to many folds. When we talk about CCTV surveillance or frisking and any other thing which is related to security, not only this, before 24 hours of the counting process begins, the police personnel have been deployed accordingly. We showed you a report also in the morning, and we've been showing the visuals since morning to evening that how the police officials have been deputed 24/7 hours before the counting process begins. And not only this, everything is under CCTV surveillance and all areas have been checked in when we talk about security amid the counting procedure. Tanvi.
Okay, Deepika, Prime Minister Narendra Modi is vying for a third consecutive term from Varanasi. If exit polls do prove correct, will the win set another record?
We are expecting another record, but this time the record for Prime Minister Narendra Modi, as per his expectation, is not creating a hat-trick, because they take it, they assume it that this is a given fact. They are going to make a hat-trick, because we here had a word with many ministers also. You would remember we did an exclusive with Jitin Prasad, and Jitin Prasad clearly said that this is not a question of winning or losing. BJP is winning for sure, and the hat-trick would be there for sure. But the question is of the margins, because this time the slogan of BJP from Varanasi is to cross the 10 lakh voting margin from there. So let's see if that record is created or not. But for now, as per BJP, as per people's mandate, and as per exit poll, the hat-trick is coming in for Prime Minister Narendra Modi.
Yeah, Deepika, whether a record is set tomorrow for Prime Minister Narendra Modi or not remains to be seen. But for now, we are hailing the record number of participation of Indian voters, for which the ECI, the Chief Election Commissioner of India, also thanked the huge participation seen across the length and breadth of the country. Thank you, Deepika. Deepika Mehto joining us from Varanasi. Well, all eyes are on tomorrow's counting process. DD India's continued coverage on the election starts from right in the morning, 7 a.m. local time. And now to understand what the ECI's statements mean for the larger electoral process of the country, we are now joined by Chakshu Roy. Chakshu joins us from PRS Legislative Firm. It is a non-profit organization based in New Delhi. Welcome, Chakshuji. Well, this is the first time that the Election Commission has held a press conference before counting. What is its significance in your view?
Tanvi, I think any time the Election Commission holds a press conference, the significance of is that it conveys the seriousness with which the electoral process is taken in the country. And I think when we look at a press conference before the counting takes place, what it signifies is that irrespective of what the outcome of election is, the fact that the process should be free, fair, independent is what matters. And I think a number of the things that were addressed by the Election Commission point towards that direction. One final thought on the Election Commission's press conference is that very often it is the process is questioned as to is it completely unbiased? Does it make sure that every vote is counted? And a press conference that like this goes a long way in establishing as to what is the rigor that the ECI follows, and what does it mean when we say that the Election Commission of India conducts the largest voting exercise in the world, and it does it in a manner which is unblemished.
Okay, the Chief Election Commissioner today called India's massive electoral exercise a miracle and a historic moment for the nation as a whole. Would you agree, sir?
I think so. I think just look at the size of the voting population. There was 1 billion people who were supposed to vote in these elections. A record number of people voted. And anybody outside of India cannot imagine the fact that in such a big country, each one of us has the ability and go to a polling station that is less than 2 or 3 kilometers from our place, irrespective of whether it is one vote that has to be captured. Election officials go to great lengths. They travel long distances and ensure that even if it is one vote or 2 votes in a particular area, they are captured. Lastly, in the segment that was starting, it showed that older people, they did not have to travel to the voting booth. The voting booth actually came to them.
Yes.
So the ballot box reached their houses before there was a privacy shield that was put up. And that requires a fair bit of work. And it ensures that the sanctity of the vote, even while it is cast within the 4 walls of an individual's house, is protected. And the vote of every individual, young, old, it matters. So you would have seen that visuals in Delhi. Prime Minister Manmohan Singh voted in his house. A number of elderly people voted in their houses. So that just goes to signify that the length that the Election Commission will go to ensure that no voter is left behind and each valid vote is captured in this electoral process, making it truly democratic.
Okay, indeed. Chakshuji, a word about the highest voter turnout in Jammu and Kashmir seen in the last 4 decades?
I think perhaps one of those special things that when voter turnout is high, it shows confidence in voters to come out and exercise their franchise and cast their vote to select their public representative. And in a part of our country which for a long time has had seen disturbances, this is an extremely encouraging sign. That voters came out in large numbers, and possibly, as many experts have said, it possibly paves the way for an electoral exercise for this for that particular region in the coming months.
And finally, as the Chief Election Commissioner pointed out, representatives from 23 countries observed and were impressed by India's electoral marvel and commended its unmatched scale and total integrity. What does it say for the state of Indian democracy, in your view?
I think two highlights to that. One, if you look at the fact that the machinery used in Indian elections is not only used in India, it is used by other countries as well. So the EVM machines, they are exported to a number of other countries. The indelible ink that I have on my finger and you also have is also exported to multiple countries. The Election Commission of India trains electoral officers from across the world at their offices in Delhi. And finally, while all of this is good, the fact that we are able to establish a free and fair election at such a large scale over such a long time establishes that while we might be a young democracy, we are a vibrant democracy, we are a participative democracy, and that shows that the health of the democracy, while it has dwindled in our neighboring countries, it remains strong and resolute in India.
Okay, strength of our democracy remains resolute. On that note, we wind up this discussion. Thank you very much, Chakshu Roy ji, for joining DD India News Hour. Okay, still to come on the show. Russia warns the United States of fatal consequences if it ignored Moscow's warnings, not let Ukraine strike targets on Russian soil. All eyes on the African National Congress as it discusses who to enlist to govern South Africa. And Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan acquitted of leaking state secrets, but will remain in prison for now.
Now that the heat and dust of the campaign has settled and the cacophony of slogans has whittled, the EVMs are all set to reveal what the Indian voters really feel. Who will win and wear the crown? Who will lose the race and frown? Narendra Modi's campaign was smart and slick. Will the NDA now score a hat-trick? Or will Rahul Gandhi's attack bring the India alliance numbers back? Will Mamta retain her Bengal base? And Kejriwal win the capital's race? Sharad or Ajit? Uddhav or Eknath? Which faction will lead the claim? Will Nitish win it in Bihar? Or RJD will have the last laugh? Will Akhilesh's cycle gain speed? Or Chandrababu Naidu reclaim lost seat? Will Amit Shah's strategy help BJP fly? Or will DMK's sun again rise high? Watch the events unfold and the most fascinating political story ever told. From the crack of dawn in India on the 4th of June, stay tuned to DD India for the fastest and most authentic results.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I am Tanvi Taneja. Pakistan's former Prime Minister Imran Khan on Monday was acquitted from a conviction on charges of leaking state secrets. Despite the acquittal, Khan will remain in prison due to a conviction in another case. The High Court in Pakistan also acquitted Khan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi of the same charges. The former Prime Minister had been sentenced to 10 years in prison on charges of making public a classified cable sent to Islamabad by Pakistan's ambassador in Washington back in 2022. Mexico elected its first female president in Claudia Sheinbaum. A candidate of the ruling Morena party, Claudia Sheinbaum secured a landslide election victory on Monday. The former Mexico City mayor won the highest vote percentage in the history of Mexico's 200 years. A report.
Claudia Sheinbaum, candidate of the ruling Morena party, was declared the winner of Mexico's presidential elections by the National Electoral Institute on Sunday. Sheinbaum won a landslide victory to become Mexico's first female president, inheriting the project of her mentor and outgoing leader, Andrés Manuel López Obrador, whose popularity among the poor helped drive her triumph. A climate scientist and former mayor of Mexico City, Sheinbaum won the presidency between 58.3% and 60.7% of the vote according to the rapid sample count by Mexico's Electoral Authority. This is said to be the highest vote tally percentage in Mexico's democratic history. Amid loud cheers by her supporters in Mexico City on Sunday night, Sheinbaum addressed them promising to expand welfare programs, maintain austerity within the country, give autonomy to the Bank of Mexico and promote private investment.
No llego sola.
We will have an honest government, free of influences, without corruption nor impunity. Our government will have Republican austerity, financial and fiscal discipline, and with autonomy for the Bank of Mexico. There will not be real price hikes for fuel and electricity. We will keep the necessary division between political and economic power.
Meanwhile, Mexican opposition presidential candidate conceded defeat to the president-elect.
Siempre he sido demócrata.
I have always been a Democrat. I am firmly committed with respecting the law. I have demonstrated this as a citizen and throughout my political career. That is why I recognize that the trends for presidential elections are not in my favor.
A political career that kicked off in 2000, Sheinbaum served as an environment chief under López Obrador before taking on the role as the chief spokesperson for his first campaign for president in 2006, which he narrowly lost. In 2015, she was elected to run Mexico City's largest borough and became the capital's mayor. Just 3 years later, the same year, her mentor's third bid for the presidency ended in a landslide victory. Her victory is a major step for Mexico, a country known for its macho culture and home to the world's second biggest Roman Catholic population, which for years has pushed for more traditional values and roles for women. Bureau Report, DD India.
On to the Israel-Hamas conflict now. Prospects for a Gaza truce plan outlined by US President Joe Biden appear slim as fighting rages on. Meanwhile, massive protests are going on in Jerusalem and New York for release of Israeli hostages held in Hamas's captivity for almost 8 months now. Both the parties claim that their approach towards the truce proposal is positive, but there seems little progress in the situation on the ground.
3 days have passed since US President Joe Biden outlined a plan for a Gaza ceasefire and hostage release deal in his White House address on Friday. But even today, heavy fighting is raging between Israel and Hamas. On Sunday, the US Secretary of State Anthony Blinken held separate phone calls about the proposal with Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant and Benny Gantz, a centrist minister. Blinken commended Israel's readiness to conclude a deal and underscored that the proposal would advance Israel's long-term security interests. Blinken's phone calls came as an aide to Netanyahu confirmed that Israel had accepted Biden's framework deal for winding down the Gaza war, though he described it as flawed and in need of much more work. His comments came during an interview. Meanwhile, families of hostages held in Gaza protested outside Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office in Jerusalem, urging him to accept the deal.
I'm here to support my government in taking this deal, the deal that Netanyahu suggested, our Prime Minister, that will get all our people back home. We are all here in support for the return of all hostages.
On the other hand, thousands of people marched through the streets of Manhattan to celebrate Israel Day and to demand the release of hostages taken from Israel by Hamas in the October 7 attack. The event drew high-ranking politicians, including Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer and New York Governor Kathy Hochul.
We will not relent. We will not back down. We must bring them home. Bring them home. Bring them home. Bring them home now.
We stand together today to support Israel, to support the hostage families, and of course, Jewish people all over America are united. Thank you very much. Let's begin the march.
Hamas has said that it considers Israeli roadmap for truce positively. However, there appears to be little change in the position on the ground. So far, Biden has hailed a number of ceasefire proposals over the past several months, each with similar frameworks. But all of them have collapsed. Whether the new proposal would create a new milestone or would meet the same fate is to be seen in the days to come. Bureau Report, DD India.
On to the other bigger conflict. Russia's Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov on Monday said that the United States could face fatal consequences if it ignored Moscow's warnings to not let Ukraine strike targets on Russian soil. Ryabkov's comment comes in response to US President Biden's decision last week to approve the use of US-supplied weapons to hit targets inside Russia that were involved in attacks on Ukraine's Kharkiv region. Ryabkov said attempts by Kiev to attack Russian early warning radar systems would be thwarted and Moscow may respond asymmetrically to such steps. Meanwhile, Russia's foreign ministry on Monday imposed sanctions on a number of British politicians, journalists and experts, again adding to the list of people barred from entering Russia. The ministry said that the ban was issued over their hostile actions towards Russia. Next news from the US. Hunter Biden is set to become the first child of a sitting US president tried for crimes, just days after the historic guilty verdict against Donald Trump. Two events that may inject fresh uncertainty into the 2024 November elections. Jury selection begins on Monday in the first of two cases Hunter Biden has tried to avoid for years, both to stay out of prison and to spare his father, President Joe Biden's political and personal turmoil as he runs for a second term, most likely against Donald Trump. The trial in Wilmington, Delaware, on 3 federal gun violations is expected to plumb the depths of the younger Biden's drug use. During that period, prosecutors allege he lied about his substance abuse on a federal form to illegally purchase a firearm. British opposition leader Keir Starmer vowed to bolster national security and maintain the country's armed forces and nuclear deterrent. Addressing former military Labour candidates and audience on Monday, Starmer emphasized Labour's dedication to defence, aiming to reassure voters ahead of the election. Starmer's focus on defence contrasts with the party's previous stance under Jeremy Corbyn. He committed to a nuclear deterrent triple lock and is now set to debate Rishi Sunak on the BBC network a week before the 2024 general election.
We have the smallest army since the time of Napoleon, at a time when other countries are firmly on a war footing. And so, even as we work tirelessly for peace, we have to be fit to fight. So let me be unequivocal. This Labour Party is totally committed to the security of our nation, to our armed forces, and importantly, to our nuclear deterrent.
On to South Africa now. The country awaits the African National Congress's decision on coalition partners after losing its majority for the first time in 30 years on Sunday. The ANC, African National Congress's vote share dropped to 40.2%, prompting the need for alliances. Potential partners range from the Free Market Democratic Alliance to parties advocating nationalization. President Cyril Ramaphosa emphasizes responsible leadership amid this uncertainty. The ANC's working committee is set to present options to the National Executive Committee. The parliament must convene within 2 weeks to choose the next president. Over 20 candidates, including prominent figures Bagher Ghalibaf, Ishaq Jahangiri and former President Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, submitted their nomination for Iran's presidential election to be held on June 28th. On Monday, Iran's parliament speaker and former Revolutionary Guard commander Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf announced his candidature for president. Despite being re-elected as parliament speaker, Ghalibaf opted to run, citing the need to continue addressing economic issues. Meanwhile, former senior vice president of Iran, Ishaq Jahangiri, also registered as a candidate for the presidential election on Monday. Out of 37 accepted nominations, 20 were submitted on Sunday alone, while over 100 applications were rejected for not meeting the necessary requirements. And now let's quickly take a look at other stories making news around the world. The United Nations-born climate change conference started in Germany on Monday at the opening plenary session of the UNFCCC Executive Secretary, who said that the world could not afford rest stops, detours or stumbles on climate action. Meanwhile, climate activists demonstrated the Palestinian flags at the conference stage. A garbage interceptor has been installed in Motagua River, Guatemala, as the river has become an ecological disaster for the world's oceans. As one of the most polluted rivers in Latin America, the Motagua River receives daily garbage from more than 1 million people living in the country. As European Union residents prepare to vote in the upcoming European election, thousands of migrants continue trying to reach the European shores. But mainstream parties are avoiding the migration issue due to its complexity. Despite the significant influx of irregular arrivals, migration has not emerged as a central topic of debate in electoral campaigns. Indonesia's mega TikTok Tokopedia merger earlier in the year has greatly boosted business development for micro, small and medium-sized enterprises in the country. The Indonesian government has made it a top priority to digitalize small and medium enterprises. Its current target is to have at least 30 million companies joining the digital platforms in 2024. You're with us on DD India News Hour, still to come on the show. The German and Nigerian Foreign Office congratulate India for successfully conducting the world's largest democratic elections. India's BSE Sensex and Nifty logged their biggest one-day gain ahead of Lok Sabha's poll outcome on Tuesday. And as all eyes are on Tuesday's counting process, we discuss with our expert the exit polls and the market euphoria. Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. A quick look at the headlines we're tracking at this hour. India's Chief Election Commissioner Rajiv Kumar highlights historic firsts of 2024 polls, says India created a world record of 642 million voter turnout with the highest women participation seen. Israel's top priority is destroying Hamas, reiterates Prime Minister Netanyahu, adds that it would be pursued along with the hostage recovery as part of the Gaza plan. And Claudia Sheinbaum wins landslide victory to become Mexico's first female president in the country's 200-year history. So Tuesday is a much anticipated day in India and worldwide. It's the day when we'll finally get to know the outcome of the world's largest democratic exercise. However, on Saturday, after the end of polling in the seventh and final phase of the elections, over a dozen exit poll results hit the news networks, and all of them gave a more than comfortable majority to Prime Minister Narendra Modi-led BJP and its allies, making up the NDA, stirring much debate. Take a look.
All the heat and dust of the electioneering ended on Saturday with the seventh and final phase of polling in India for its national elections. Counting of votes is to take place on Tuesday, but Saturday evening saw a flurry of exit poll results being beamed by different Indian news networks. All gave a resounding third term to India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi. News network after news network came up with near unanimous figures. 11 exit pollsters forecast that PM Modi's BJP and its allies would win anywhere from 350 to 380 seats out of the 540 in the Lok Sabha, the lower house of the Indian Parliament. 3 of these exit polls even took the NDA alliance beyond the 400 seats mark, which was the declared election war cry of the BJP in these polls. Only one, conducted by TV9 Bharat Varsh, gave the NDA less than 350 seats, but still much more than the 272 required to form a government. Averaging of all the data churned out by the different pollsters brought forth the poll of polls, which have the NDA at 365, the India Alliance 146, and others at 32 seats. Exit polls can sometimes go wrong, but their near unanimity this time around stands out. However, the opposition refused to give exit polls any credence ahead of the actual results, evoking ridicule from the BJP and pollsters alike.
इसका नाम एग्जिट पोल नहीं है, इसका नाम मोदी मीडिया पोल है. ये मोदी जी का पोल है, फैंटेसी पोल है उनका. Thank you.
The Congress party obviously doesn't know its arithmetic. Even if they add all the digits that they're talking about, that will not be their tally. The Bharatiya Janata Party is on its way to victory under the leadership of Prime Minister Modi. The way his schemes have percolated down to the poorest of poor, one thing is apparent, Jo jeeta wohi Sikandar, but the jeet is clearly that of Narendra Modi ji.
Politicians are free to say whatever they wish to say. They can say that they are fantasy polls of Mr. Modi. But when our exit polls were showing Congress is winning in Karnataka, when our trackers and everybody was showing that Congress is winning in Telangana, or for that matter, even if you count other India Alliance partner, West Bengal, Delhi, Punjab, Kerala, Tamil Nadu, and so on and so forth, whenever we were saying that they are leading and they are winning, were we fantasy polls of Rahul Gandhi? Were we fantasy polls of Arvind Kejriwal, fantasy poll of Mamata Banerjee or Stalin?
Exit polls always stir up a debate whether they give a clear or a jumbled up verdict. But their shelf life remains short, and it's the actual election results that matter. Counting day on Tuesday is not far, and we'll soon find out who stands where. Bureau Report, DD India.
Now, Chinese daily tabloid The Global Times has covered the predictions of several exit polls by Indian media outlets. In an article, the publication said that if India can work together with China in the next term of the Prime Minister, it could pave the way for improvements in the relationship between the two countries. The article said India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is likely to win a third consecutive term in office. Chinese experts noted that Modi's overall domestic and foreign policies will maintain continuity. It added that the Prime Minister is expected to persist in his efforts to bolster the country's economic growth. Analysts emphasize the importance of India collaborating with China to uphold open communication to address differences in the bilateral relations. It said Modi will continue to focus on propelling the country toward becoming the world's third largest economy. Additionally, Modi's strategic approach includes enhancing India's global influence through diplomatic channels. Regarding China-India relations, the possibility of a strengthened confrontation between China and India is unlikely if Modi wins. The Chinese side has been committed to actively enhancing relations with India, believing that maintaining stable bilateral ties are in the interests of both sides. It is imperative for India to uphold a strategic perspective towards China-India relations and collaborate with China to resolve differences through dialogue and communication. This was the gist of the article. Now, the German Foreign Office has congratulated Indians for successfully conducting the world's largest democratic elections. It said that Germany is looking forward to working with India's new government and taking cooperation to the next level. In a post on social media platform X, the German Foreign Office stated, and I quote the office, "Congratulations to the Indian people for successfully concluding the world's largest democratic elections. We are looking forward to working with India's new government and to taking our cooperation with India to the next level." On similar lines, Nigerian Minister of Foreign Affairs Yusuf Maitama Tugar also congratulated the people of India and the External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar for exemplifying their status as the world's bastion of democracy. In a post on X, Yusuf Maitama Tugar stated, "Congratulations to the people of India and Dr. S. Jaishankar for exemplifying their status as the world's bastion of democracy. This historic election, which lasted 44 days, was the largest ever in history, with more than 968 million eligible voters out of a population of 1.4 billion. As the largest democracy in Africa, we join you in championing democracy, which is a key pillar of our 4Ds foreign policy agenda. Congratulations once again on a successful electoral season." So the exit polls of India's general election have propelled the Indian stock markets to record highs on Monday. All 13 sectoral indices were in the green, while financial services, oil and gas and the power sectors led the rally on Nifty. The BSE Sensex was up 2,507 points as it hit a fresh closing high of 76,469. Nifty 50 also hit an all-time high of 23,264. And let's now connect with Foreign Affairs expert Atul Aneja. Atulji is editor India Narrative. Welcome, sir, to the program. Up first, a generic question. Historically, how accurate have exit polls been in our country?
It's been a mixed approach, but over time, the quality of exit polls has been improving. And of late, we find that they're fairly accurate. There is a margin of error, but there's no gross sort of deviation from the exact polls which come from there. So in this particular case, I think there is a consensus which has been built up. All exit polls are showing almost a similar kind of a variation in terms of who's going to be the winner of this election. So I think quality of exit polls has also been improving over time, and this time the reliability factor seems to be more than the times before.
Okay. And now most exit polls have predicted a thumping win for the BJP. If that indeed happens, and we will know tomorrow, what would you say would be the primary factors behind BJP's victory?
Well, I think one has to take a holistic view here. In the last 10 years, what one has witnessed is the rise of India, and whether it's in the field of economy, whether it's in terms of infrastructure building, in terms of counter-terror, in terms of foreign policy, culminating in the G20 summit, India being in a position of leadership for the global South, the handling of the COVID, which took place. So it's a variety of factors, and also the rethinking of India as a civilizational state, foundationally as a civilizational state. I think all these factors have got together and brought this success rate. First, and finally, the personality of the Prime Minister, whether you like him or not, nobody can deny the way he campaigned during this and earlier polls as well. In the heat, going through, I think, 206 rallies, it's not a joke. I mean, it does create a dent in people's psyche of a commitment of a leader. And I think all these factors, including the personality factor of the Prime Minister, went all together and built this chemistry, which seems to have led to this fantastic result. Again, Tanvi, we are waiting for the final results tomorrow. But as I said earlier,
indeed, Atulji, we all wait for results tomorrow. But again, if the exit polls hold true, where would you say the opposition parties have failed?
Have failed, okay. I think this is a new India which has emerged, and the psyche of the people has changed. It's not an elitist India anymore. I mean, it's not India which lives just in the cities. I think that the B cities and towns are playing a much bigger role now in terms of giving India a direction. So I think the parties, the opposition parties, have yet to get the pulse of the new India, especially the aspirations of the youth, and the poor. Because after all, when we had COVID out here, there was, through banking channels, outreach to the poorest of the poor. I think they also could not fathom the role of women and how decisive women are in terms of politics today and in the election of a new government. I think they missed the bus completely. The new paradigm was not caught on. And, over-reliance on social media, which was a skillful campaign. I think the opposition did a very skillful social media campaign. But, you need an organization, you need those foot soldiers all across the country, that network, and most importantly, catching the pulse of a new, young, and aspirational India. I think that's where they missed the bus. There is a big gap between the way the real India thinks and the way some of these opposition parties thought. So that disconnect is very much reflected. Apart from the fact that, the BJP and the NDA, the campaigning was far more robust and on the ground rather than on the social media. So I think the contrast was pretty clear. There's a core constituency now which supports the BJP and the NDA. And whatever may be the circumstances, how sleek your campaign may be, I think that consolidation is also a major factor, which that base is very important and which will get you through whatever be the situation. The margin may vary here and there. I think the opposition does not have that kind of a assured base as of now. Okay. And that's the difference which gets reflected in these numbers, again assuming that this exit poll numbers are real numbers.
Yeah, we'll have to see and wait till tomorrow. On the financial front, sir, the Indian stock market saw a huge rally today with the Sensex and the Nifty surging over 3% each. Why the market euphoria?
Stability and assurance that India is in the right direction. I mean, we are already a $3 trillion economy, and the Prime Minister has made it very clear that we'll very soon be a $5 trillion economy. And coupled with that is the concept of Viksit Bharat, that we are on track to become a developed country by 2047. So there's a clear-cut vision, there are clear policies, and I think most importantly is that what last 10 years have done is given credibility. That what you say, you deliver, and what you do. I think all these factors and the factor of political stability now for the next 5 years at least, I think all these factors have gone together to give a big thumbs up by the markets to the exit poll results.
Would you say, Atulji, that this is a good time for those retail investors who have been left out of the stock market rally to put in some money into stocks?
I think they should. And tomorrow, they may regret if they haven't put it today because, if the exit poll results come true, then we'll see a further rally. I suspect that would be the case. And then you would have missed the bus.
Okay. Atulji, Prime Minister Narendra Modi penned his thoughts in an editorial, and this editorial was published in several dailies, Indian dailies today, where he wrote that Bharat cannot limit reform to just economic reforms, but must move forward in every aspect of life. So a comment about Prime Minister's breadth of vision revealed by the statement.
You see, their economic reforms started in 1991, and they were pursued consistently. But I think along with that, what we need is also bureaucratic reforms. If a new India is to rise and it's to grow by 10% or more, you need a far agile, nimble and a responsive bureaucracy. I think that's one reform which needs to come. There needs to be some political reforms as well. So I think what the Prime Minister is saying is that if India is to leapfrog into a developed nation, then you will have to make these revolutionary steps and align it with the needs of the hour. So I think this is a signal that big changes are expected in the next 5 years to put India really on track to the developed league. And I think the political will is there. And Prime Minister's own write-up is indicating to that will. I think they've thought through a roadmap of how to go about it.
Yeah.
And that seems to be the case. And so big changes across 360-degree changes, Tanvi.
Okay. We'll have to wait till tomorrow, though. Thank you very much, Atula Neja-ji, for joining us on DD India News Hour. Still to come on the show. International nuclear watchdog IAEA chief Rafael Grossi says it's far from safe to restart the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant. Turkey's annual inflation rate hits a staggering 75.45% in the month of May. And in sports, Real Madrid celebrates the historic 15th Champions League title with fans in the Spanish capital's city centre.
After a grueling campaign, after exhausting polling spanning 7 phases, the stage is set for the counting day, the grand finale of the largest electoral exercise ever. DD India is all decked up and ready, counting of votes for India's general elections. Accurate and fast results, in-depth analysis with experts and reporters everywhere. Only on DD India, 4th June, 6 a.m. onwards.
You're watching DD India News Hour. I am Tanvi Taneja. UN nuclear watchdog chief Rafael Grossi on Monday said that it would be unsafe to restart the Russian-held Zaporozhye nuclear power plant in Ukraine. During a meeting of the International Atomic Energy Agency's 35-nation Board of Governors, Grossi suggested against the restart of the plant, citing the ongoing conflict in the region. 6 of its reactors are currently shut down. Last week, Grossi held a meeting with Russia where President Putin expressed hopes to restart Europe's biggest nuclear power plant. However, after last week's meeting, Russia said it is not currently planning to reactivate the plant.
So on the issue of the restart of Zaporizhia, I think I wouldn't characterize the discussions or the outcome of the discussions in Kaliningrad as a formal agreement. I think it was a technical conversation, but with coincidence in the sense that in the present circumstances, a restart, gradual or simultaneous or more than one unit would not be advisable. The reasons being, first, of course, the military operations still ongoing in the region, and secondly, the situation around on the external power supply.
Nigeria's main labour unions on Monday shut down the national grid and disrupted airline operations across the country as they began an indefinite strike of the government's failure to agree to a new minimum wage. The strike is the fourth embarked upon by the Nigerian Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, two of the country's biggest unions since President Bola Tinubu took office last year. On Monday, Georgia's parliamentary speaker signed a foreign agents bill into law after the government lawmakers voted last week to overcome a veto by President Salome Zurabichvili, who had criticized it. The legislation requires the organizations receiving more than 20% of their funding from overseas to register as agents of foreign influence and introduces fines for violations as well as taxing disclosure requirements. Opponents of the bill have been protesting for over a month, calling it the Russian law and that it is modelled on Russian legislation used to target opponents of President Vladimir Putin. Turkey's annual inflation rate rose to 75.45% in May this year. According to data from the Turkish Statistic Institute released on Monday, the cost of education topped all the sector's annual increase rates at 104.8%. The growth rate in clothing and footwear sector was the lowest at 50.85% year on year. The Turkish Treasury and Finance Minister Mehmet Şimşek on Monday said that Turkey's inflation has reached its peak and is expected to decline. And now we take a look at other stories making news in India. The Butting Organic Producer Limited, which is the second farmer producer organization of Kargil district, has successfully conducted a farmer training program in Ladakh, Kargil. The event saw enthusiastic participation from local farmers and key stakeholders. The farmer producer organization is supported by the HDFC Parivartan. The district hospital of Kargil has successfully performed the first total conservative parotectomy to treat a deep lobe parotid tumor. This success highlights the transformative impact of advanced technology in healthcare. District Hospital Kargil's pioneering efforts are setting a new standard for medical care in the region. An encounter broke out between terrorists and security forces in the Nihama area of Pulwama district on Monday morning. Police said that bodies of two terrorists have been recovered in Pulwama's Nihama area. People residing in low-lying areas in Manipur in India's northeast are still facing difficulties from waterlogging due to heavy rainfall triggered by Cyclone Remal. Rescue and rehabilitation process is being undertaken on war footing by several authorities. All possible assistance is being provided by the state authorities of Manipur. You're watching DD India News Hour. Time now for some sporting action. After their historic 15th Champions League title, Real Madrid players presented the Champions League trophy to an ecstatic crowd in the Spanish capital city centre on Sunday. Thousands of fans flocked to Cibel Square to cheer Captain Nacho as he hung a club scarf on the statue of goddess Cibele.
La cara de felicidad de todas las personas que hay aquí.
Seeing all the happy faces of the people here is the best that can happen to a football player. This Madrid is incredible because it can achieve incredible things. We are not tired of winning. We are going to enjoy this day a lot because this is something spectacular. Hala Madrid.
Espectacular. ¡Hala Madrid!
Now, Real Madrid are preparing to announce the signing of Kylian Mbappe as a free agent, according to media reports on Sunday. The France captain is believed to be joining the Spanish Giants when his contract at the Paris Saint-Germain club expires on June 30th. Los Blancos, who lifted a record-extending 15th Champions League trophy on Saturday, are reportedly set to confirm Mbappe's arrival next week before he carries on with Euro 2024 preparations. Mbappe has long been linked with Real Madrid, reportedly rejecting a huge offer in 2021 and was again set for a move to the La Liga side in 2022 before announcing a contract extension with the PSG ahead of the transfer window opening. India's public broadcaster Prasar Bharati on Monday announced that it will telecast the T20 World Cup being organised in West Indies and the USA that started on Sunday on DD Free Dish platform. The announcement was made by CEO Prasar Bharati, Gaurav Dwivedi, during an interaction with the media in New Delhi. Doordarshan will follow up the high-profile coverage of the T20 World Cup with a lineup of telecast of a number of major global international sporting events. This includes a live, deferred live and highlights of the Paris Olympic Games 2024, Paris Paralympic Games, international cricket series between India, Zimbabwe and India versus Sri Lanka, and the ladies and the men's finals of the French Open 2024 and Wimbledon Championship 2024. The International Cricket Council ICC on Monday announced a record-breaking prize fund for the Men's T20 World Cup 2024. ICC has set a record-breaking prize fund of $11.25 million with the winners set to receive at least $2.45 million. The runners-up will receive at least $1.28 million, while the losing semi-finalists walk away with $787,500 cash from the total. This is the highest ever prize money in the history of the tournament, along with the trophy that will lift at that the winners will lift at the Kensington Oval in Barbados on June 29th. And as the heat wave continues across India, an elephant rehabilitation centre in southern India's Tiruchirappalli district installed foggers to keep the tuskers cool amid scorching heat. The district forest officials said that the elephant were being treated to 20 minutes of bathing daily, and the foggers were installed to lower the temperatures. So that's it in this edition of DD India News Hour. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. You can connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And for those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates on our DD India mobile app. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja from my entire team in New Delhi. Thank you for watching. Namaskar.